Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dungeons Divided Ask the Acolytes. My name is Josh Rosario.
And I'm Roy Halo.
And today we have our special guest, DW McCann.
Hello, everyone.
You may know him as the towering man who sits to my, I guess it's to the left on the screen. Was it left or right?
I believe it sits to your left.
It's my left. So I feel it's my left. And yes. So, yes, thank you, man. It's so good to have you.
No problem. Thank you guys for inviting me.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, before we start off with our questions and everything, first off, please give the audience like a little intro about yourself, a good little minute intro about you.
Well, as far as who I am in general, I'm an entertainer of whatever will let me. Currently doing a lot of work in voiceover, but I also write, I direct, I sing. I've got a folk singing group going on right now. I've got shows that I write, Shakespearean related, Shakespeareophile, all that stuff. Wherever I can find the opportunity to entertain, I try to. That said, with gaming, I've been in role playing games since the Red Books were out. So back at the very first advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I did not get in on the original Dungeons and Dragons, just the advanced Dungeons and Dragons. But because I've always been a gamer, I currently still own so many board games. I tend to demo for groups like Slugfest and Steve Jackson Games and stuff like that at conventions, and I love gaming. I love the concept of it, and being from a theater background. Role-playing games just seemed like great little acting exercises. So I've really enjoyed them. I played them since I was young with a group that in the original books they had equipment lists, and we were young enough that we didn't know what certain things were, like a crampon. So we see crampon, 15 silver pieces. Well, you totally need one of those, because none of us wanted to admit that we didn't know what it was. So they're and then people would explain, oh, well, that's a lizard that you keep, and we're like, oh yeah, sure, that's a lizard. I don't know.
Yeah, I knew that crampon.
That's the one that's always stuck in my brain because it's such a funny name in general. But yeah, so I played that for a long time. With a group of people who didn't play themselves. So I didn't really have a gaming group. We all kind of found the game, learned it together. Then we kind of went our separate ways. I was kind of hanging around gaming communities and stuff like that. The game store in my mall actually did a contest for invent a weapon, invent a monster, invent a, I think it was a magic item was the last one. And I won 2 of the contests by submitting. Never played a game at that store, but I was always in there buying. And I was kind of a shy kid. I didn't talk to those that were putting games together and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, cool game. Okay, I'm going to go now. And I but I submitted for those, and I got game books that I was not I don't know what game system this goes to, but I won it. This was my prize. And I think I may even still have some of them.
Wow.
But I also, because I had these games, I had the Monster Manual for 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, and I would read it late at night. And my family were among those that worried about satanic panic. So I was caught one time that I was reading that late at night. I'd fallen asleep with the book in front of me. Got a talking to the next day. It was all sorts of issue. Well, why can't you put these books down? Because they're entertaining. Well, that's clearly the hold of something evil. There was concerns. There was all sorts of, and so any gaming I could do, I had to do secretly with friends. I had a friend of mine that for a while we ran a game across the phone. We'd call each other, and for 2 hours we'd just talk on the phone, and this is what my character does. This is what happened, and we would play a game that way. I don't know how good they were. I don't know if we were following rules or not. That was our interaction for 2 hours.
No, but what's the most important thing is, did you have fun?
Yes.
You had fun, then it doesn't matter how it went, because you had fun.
Question is, you're playing a game with a single player on the phone. So
he was the storyteller.
He was the
storyteller, and he would walk me through games.
And he would guide you through.
So we had originally played with multiple people, and then as people, it was kind of that original group that I played with, and then as people dropped off, it came down to it was the 2 of us. So he would set up scenarios, and I would go through them, and he'd spend time putting puzzles together, and I would go through those, and yeah. was just a 2-player game at that point.
So tell me, all-time player, or do you DM? Have you ever DM'd?
I have actually never DM'd. I've always wanted to. I've come up with scenarios and stuff like that, but I really love the playing aspect, and I've never had a group put together that we were at short for a DM. I either don't have a group or I have a group who has like, oh no, I'm the DM. There was a game called Paranoia that I wanted to try and run as I was going to DM across the computer, because in the game Paranoia, like you are a cog in a corporate machine, and the computer takes care of you, and the computer gives you your orders, and you're supposed to carry them out. And the whole thing, like the orders are like, fix the fan filter on level 4 of the blue sector. But where the drama comes in is your whole team have a job to make that happen. And like one person's the happiness expert, and they've got a thing of pills, and they have to make sure everybody on the team is happy, and they can't overdose anybody, and they can't. And like there's all that kind of stuff as you go. But then the next layer is the computer also hates mutants. And mutants are horrible. They're a defect to society. Every player in the game is a mutant. But you can't tell anybody you're a mutant. And then
but does everyone know
there are secret
that
societies. We don't know. We know, like, the characters know, but you're in a team. You don't know that anybody else is a mutant.
You don't
there
know
are
that,
also secret societies. And secret societies are undermining the computer. Computer is our friend. We do not toy with the computer. We do not join secret societies. Everybody playing is in a secret society. So as you're trying to learn things about each other, you're maybe demonstrating your mutant ability, but you're doing it in a way that nobody can learn. You have your mission that, to go into the blue sector and change the air filter, but there's a thing you need to download from a computer that your secret society has asked you to get while you're in the blue sector downloading. So you're doing that, but you don't know if anybody on your team is with your
layers on layers.
It's awesome.
On layers.
And I want to run it across a computer where, like, you literally get an email from the computer, and then you've got a day to respond with what your character is going to do, and then I'll send something out directly to anybody that learns something that not everybody learns, or just another email out to everybody, and then you get to respond again. I've got a way I want to do it, but I need to look into all of the secret societies and all that stuff. And I have the utmost respect for DMs because I do expect them to know more of the rules and be able to catch the things where I've never been one of those people. I've known a lot of them that know what page a rule is on. Jeez. Like you tell them something and they're like, oh, no, page 42 says that you have to go double your hit point power to be dead. And like, I have respect for those people. I don't have that ability. So I have to look up anything.
That's why I like that. With Royce, I'm like, he was asking me, okay, like, you have a chance to buy some things. Let me know what you're buying, and then and it's like, I'm like, okay, great. Where do I buy? How do I know what I'm buying? Oh yeah, go to page 150. Like, there's gonna be a gear list. I'm like, okay, great, cool. Yep.
And that's why there was also the cheat sheets we got had a lot of nice information on it, so you don't have to look it up. And all those things are nice for beginning characters.
Yeah, I know it's been really fun. Coming in as a beginner, but what is it that when you first started that kind of really got you into it? Like, what was so fascinating? I mean, first of all, I'm kind of fascinated that you were even an introvert, because it's.
I'm what is referred to as an ambivert. There are the times that I feel like, oh, yeah, let's go be around everybody. And there are times like, leave me in my cave.
Wait, he just turned to Batman.
Yes. Bruce. Brute. It is a very lovely cave, by the way. So what is it that got you so fascinated? Is it the problem solving of it? Is it the role playing of it? What was it that really kind of grabbed you?
I think the first thing that grabbed me with it was the chance to be somebody else. Because I think for a lot of people who, like, it's become mainstream. There's a lot of really popular people who play, role-playing games now. Back then, it was the unpopular people that tended to play. Yeah. And one of the things was we weren't necessarily happy with who we were. Yeah. So here's a chance. I was not I was tall, but I was lanky. I was very skinny, and I was not a big guy in any way. So if I want to play a warrior, hey, I can play a warrior. I can pretend that that's me, and I can pretend that I'm stealthier than I am, or I can pretend that I can throw magic, or like all of these concepts were really interesting to like for a moment play somebody else, which is kind of where my love of acting came from.
I have to admit, it is a very interesting. Picking a character and watching it develop, and then thinking back on my own kind of psyche and realizing, oh my God, I picked a character that's kind of like, for example, I picked a character that's the fixer. The things I want to do, let me help you. Let me fix this. Let me that, and it just really kind of plays into my own psyche and realizing, wow, this is kind of fascinating. There's almost a therapeutic aspect to this.
Absolutely. Did you find that with your character that you?
Yeah, I started to find that with my character a little bit. I mean, there are certain things I'm still working on, but I mean, I'm having a blast. I mean, so far.
With a lot of the first characters I ever played, I did find that I kind of found ways to get outside of my shell and be like the me I wanted to be. Yeah. But as we kept going, as I played different games and stuff like that, I started going, wow, it'd be really interesting to be somebody completely not me.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people look like, I think it was even in our bios where like, what's your prime character that you play? I don't have one. Right. I tend to look like, okay, what haven't I played in a while? If I'm starting a new game, first thing I do is what haven't I played in a while? I almost never play fighters. Never play fighters. And so I'm looking, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? This is good. Okay. And I started looking up some options that I hadn't heard of within fighters. And I'm like, what's this Echo Fighter thing? What's it? Echo Knight? That's really interesting. And then I'm like, okay, so he's got somebody else who fights with him. Okay. Well, what if like he talks to him? And he thinks, and that's where the whole character concept came from for Valir. Is he's Valir. They are Valir, but they just kind of came out of that idea of coming up with what haven't I tried, what isn't me, what's going to be a nice stretch to do a new character because I've gotten, to a certain extent, comfortable playing me. Right. And I enjoy putting myself in some sort of, not discomfort, but I want to be in a place that feels different than who I am.
It's interesting to watch you play because you're very grounded in it and what you're doing in your role play. And then when it comes to battling, you're so excited about, okay, you guys have no idea. Oh, Echo Knight, man. You're so tapped into like excited to try out these new skills and watching you do it is fun. Something that's still kind of, especially for new players, figuring out the out of the box thinking.
Yeah, see that's something
You're not
that I'm working on as well is learning how to do the out of the box thinking.
You're not stuck to what's on the page.
No.
And you're not stuck to your axe or your shield. And
it's interesting. So 4.0, AD&D 4, 4th edition, one of the biggest issues with it was very box. Some people love it. I am not narking or saying anything bad about those people who really love it. But it did not allow itself for a lot of options. If you played a druid, this was the weapon you took, this was the thing you took, and they made it very much like WoW. You hit 1 3 times, and then you hit 4, and then you go back to 1 2 more times, then you hit 2, then you hit. So there was a pattern to what you needed to do.
Right.
And so every combat you went in, and you would do the same ability your first 2 turns, and then you do the other ability the third turn because you earned up enough of this to be able to do that other ability, and then that gave you the power that you did the third thing, and then and it made for very much self-driving characters that I didn't enjoy.
Right.
I want to be that person who's like, looks at the room and goes, okay, there's a bar up there. I'm going to use a whip to wrap around the bar, and I'm going to Indiana Jones the shit and just fly out there.
Yeah, and let's see what happens. I mean, yeah, I think, our last game, it was pretty interesting.
I loved how you guys solved the problem, and I had feelings it would work. I just knew it was not Valir's way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
you were dedicated. No, I'm a fighter. I'm going in with my weapon. And it was interesting because there were moments, and I was sitting there and I was watching everybody have that tense moment, And I was sitting there with Gadu. I'm like, well, I'm wondering at what point am I going to stand up and just go into the room?
And I heard you talking about doing that. When I started walking in, they had to grab my shoulders to walk. I'm like, you guys keep talking. I'm going to start this fight.
But then when Roy started saying this powder is building up, it went, what? This powder is building up. This powder? That was when it kind of knocked on my head. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. We could actually do something.
Yeah,
I will admit, I thought there was going to be something we were going to have to do in that room. And I was trying not to metagame the fact that I heard that Digo's axe told him that the fight was easier than the crystals.
Right.
But when he told us, he didn't say that.
Yeah,
he just said we're supposed to do the easiest room. So that started a debate on which is the easiest room. And I can't go, oh, the axe said, because no, the axe said it to him.
Well,
I didn't hear the axe say that, so.
That's what I asked Royce. I was like, did we hear that? Well, it wasn't common. It wasn't. I'm like, okay, because I want to know, did we just hear that?
Did we hear it? It wasn't common. You can just. Did we hear it?
Because part of me really, really, really wanted to punch that rock and push it 15 feet into the room. So,
and I would have loved that, but the idea was trying, and I like the plan we went with better than there was one point where the plan was talking about trying to, I guess, lure them in, was what I was picking up the plan was to lure them into that room and then light that room, and I'm like, I don't want to. I even know with my teleport abilities, I could have gotten out of there. I have a Raven's Queen gift that for all Shadar Kai is they can teleport within 30 feet, and it's gonna be it's gonna be really weird in combat. I can't wait till this happens because I can also change places with my Echo. And I can teleport. And so I'm going to be all over the damn board when that starts happening. I'm going to be like, boom, 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 boom. No, so I probably could have teleported out of there. But again, I don't know if going in there, if that's going to somehow cancel my teleport. I don't know if, and that was the thing, is there was a lot of, well, maybe this will work. Maybe that. And I'm like, Valir is not about the maybes. Valir is not.
He's not.
You guys can do it.
Ifs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to come up with a plan. I will support you in your plan, but I'm not going to be the person to run in there.
Right.
You want me to run in somewhere? I'm going to run in that room and do what I know how to do, where my confidence is.
Right.
Yes.
Which is again, and this is where
Which is
I've
also
to,
trying to kind of figure out what's happening. You want to know what's going to happen in that room. You want to play it out.
Exactly. But that's not necessarily DW. Mm-hmm. I probably would have sure, let's find out what happens. I'm going to run in this room and teleport out of it.
Right.
If I was confident in my teleport abilities, I guess. But yeah, it was one of those things where there's something I had decided with him, and the fact that he's been alone so long that he doesn't mess around with it. He goes with what he knows.
Right.
And that is a character choice, and that is a character choice I'm going to lean in on with him every time.
Right.
Even if it goes against something I might do. And that's where I have fun is it. As an acting exercise, it helps me kind of okay, so this is a different character that has a different mindset from me.
Right.
Let's see where his mindset takes him.
Well, I love where you're going with him, and especially in his descriptions. In his first descriptions, it was very simple. It's really like he's a fighter. Yes, he's a hermit. He's this. He's that. Surprise. There is so much more under the belt, and you can't wait. So that's what was that. I think that was what was so great about it. That you have no idea. There's a little more to it, but
the whole seeing my dad in the box this time was just.
Oh man, I saw that. It got you. It got you. So
and it's very interesting because my impulse at that moment was, okay, should I go with him? And then, you know what I mean? But the way you played him was like, no, he needs to be alone. This is him figuring it out. So, okay.
And to a certain extent, if I was looking at this purely from a gaming stance, because I play a lot of board games.
Yeah.
I work on strategy with a lot of them. And strategically, it is a bad idea for me to not be there for all the conversation you guys were having.
Yeah.
Strategically, that was a poor choice.
Yeah.
But there is nothing that wouldn't have made him I need to take this.
Yes.
I've been told that there's a chance to resurrect him. He needs to be safe.
Yes.
That is my priority right now. And it took me out of gameplay for a bit, but I feel it helped. It's helping the character development I'm working on, and I feel it helped our story, like because it gave you guys the knowledge about my character.
Right.
Yes.
And what's nice is that the DM rewarded that.
In a way, I didn't even expect.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting her to be there.
Things like that. Yeah. But it's like, wait a minute. I realize with Royce, he does like to reward that out of the box thinking, the role play. I mean, we got that inspiration for taking that time and doing those kinds of things. So that's lovely. So that's really nice. Now, interesting. So we had a tense moment.
Yes, we did.
That was super tense. That wasn't just a tense moment. That was a super tense moment.
But it was so lovely. And it's interesting, I mean, finding who I am in that, finding who everyone else is in that. And I mean, and walking out of that kind of going, no, this was great. This was great because, obviously nothing's planned and everyone is, we're all geared up and figuring it out.
Pent up. And
what's beautiful about that, and even though we're still trying to find our synergy, but what's beautiful about that is this group just got together. They got thrown in together, and that's exactly what would happen. They're all trying to figure themselves out and trying to find their synergy. So to me, that was kind of authentic. I really enjoyed that.
The part that I really loved about it was, as you're saying, the authenticity and the fact that the difference between, for a tabletop role-playing game versus a just board game, is you're going to play towards the win.
Yes.
Whereas in a tabletop role-playing game, when you're playing with good role players, the idea is that your characters may bump. And that may not work well for the gameplay of it, but it works well for the storytelling that you're doing. And a lot of this stuff is storytelling.
Yeah. And it's nice to kind of go home and go, because at the end of the day, what does it matter? But to go home and go, wow, that was kind of a cool moment, and you just wouldn't expect that. Like, going by myself, that was probably not a smart move.
Not a smart move.
No. I'm glad she went with you. I'm still mad at both of you.
Yes, Valir is. Yes,
Valir is.
I will have some explaining to do, but I think I can be convincing. And it was very interesting. But that was the impulse. I was like, wait a minute. This is just happening. We can't let this pass by. You know what I mean? You're grieving. I'm not going to pull you. Because that originally I wanted to be like, come, somebody come with me. But everyone was I'm like, okay. Well, I guess I'm going to go check it out myself. Had she not come with me, I wonder if I would have gone in and if I would have gone upstairs. I wonder how far I would have gone.
Well, and that's the thing is you took with you or were followed by one of the self-proclaimed chaotic mischief makers.
Yeah, that's true.
So, like, watching her desire to do the role play of trying to pretend to be, she had this idea in your head. You could tell from just, she told us afterwards too. I'm not just assuming her actions, but that she wanted to get that chance to try and pretend that she was the imposter and defend me. And it's like, oh, but this is still level 3 characters going up against major bosses way too soon.
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't know who is who, so I don't know who's a major boss. But I could tell that we can't do this. But I let it happen. I sat on top of that rafter and I waited and waited and waited, and I just kind of thought in my head, okay, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get out of this? Okay, I'm gonna let her play it out. But when I realized this is not happening, okay. Let's figure this out.
I gave you, and nope, pull back.
We're done. We're out. So, and that played out really well. So it was really fun scene.
I love the fact that it's you're running. She's screaming, "Save me, my love!"
Yeah, she was still committed
to play those chaotic, funny moments just at the right time.
Yeah, and just keeping her. The best thing is keeping her over my shoulder like that. I'm hoping that she's gonna keep going. I want her to keep saying things. I'm shutting my mouth and just keep running, and I'm trying not to add anything. Jumping on the roof or this. No, let her just have the moment.
But I'm also, because of how you're playing and who you're playing, I'm also seeing like almost the Ninja Gaiden, like the footsteps of you going with the whole, where like the body doesn't move, you just see the legs going as he's powering down, and she's like, "But save me, my love."
Yeah, oh, totally. And in my head, I mean, that's what I'm seeing. I'm like jumping off the rooftop, jumping to the next one, running down the street, and just
with a giant werewolf bamfing from building to building after
bouncing
you.
around. That was a fun moment.
I have a question for you guys. So in these situations that we have, because D&D is really like a role-playing game. It's really a theater of the mind, right? So question, especially for a new player when you first started out, did you really see these situations going on in your head, or were you just reacting to it in the moment as you were playing?
I try to do more reaction. So I'm weird in one of the things I do with character creation is I'll often, and I haven't really done it as much with Valir yet, partially because of how this design is going, the fact that it's a streaming thing and that kind of stuff. So I'm not trying to get too far ahead of myself. But often I will have a notebook where I've planned out exactly what I'm going to do to 3 or 4 different builds.
Okay.
So am I going to multi-class? Am I going to do this or whatever? And I write down the next things I'm going to take at each step based on that. And I'll usually, as I'm going, and I've got a point where it's like, okay, if you've gone this far, you've committed to this version of you.
Right.
If you've gone this far, you've committed to this version of you.
Yeah.
And I'll like, okay, this game, I was definitely going towards this version, so I'm going to do the next things on this level.
Right.
This game, I was actually a little bit more this character, so I'll do that and see which one makes it to that finish line of this is the character I'm building. So I don't know what I'm building, but it makes leveling easier.
Yeah. And then it allows, it kind of let the game kind of help carve who you are, allow the experience. That's interesting because, I was between, at level 3, I was between different paths, right? And then I was like, oh, should I multi-class? And hearing you say that, because we've had that conversation, I just put 3 on the board and allowed the game to play out and see, okay, do I want to go Mercy? Okay, cool. We're at 30? Okay, cool. We're at 30. Well, let's keep going, and then we'll wrap it up in about 10 minutes. Just seeing where it's going to go. Do we need more heals? Do we need this? And just allowing the character to tell me what's happening, allowing the experiences to dictate.
Well, especially really with a group, it's going to allow you guys a chance to see where, like, for instance, I know you're focusing on tanking, and I'm not focusing on tanking, but I'm taking stuff at some point that if we need a double tank situation, I can step in. Or if you decide in your character development, you're like, nope, I decided I'm taking 2 levels of rogue. Good for you. I'll now step into the tank role. Yeah. But that's the thing is it's a lot of yes and improv where you're looking at all the other characters and going, okay, we don't have a healer. And that's not just from a game standpoint. That's not just, I've looked at the numbers and the numbers say we need a healer. It's the party's sitting around and our tank has died twice and maybe I should take a level in this thing that gives me some healing because that's going to keep my tank alive. And that's character choice. That's not necessarily just gameplay choice.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I went more of a hermit route, which gives me medicine and an herbalism kit, right? I probably could have gone a far traveler and taken the perception and insight. That would have been, maybe it would have been more beneficial, but it just plays to my character better if I did that. I was like, you know what, we may have a healer, we may not, but being able to make teas and make salves and things like that, it's kind of how I just see this character. So that's kind of fun. It's a fun character choice. And then you put so much time in that one character. As a beginner, I'm like, oh my god, I want to learn my character. But now I realize as I'm building that synergy, I want to understand now I want to get out of my box and focus on the other characters and say, what are you doing? and that helps me kind of build that synergy in Yes and.
Especially,
what do you recommend?
In watching the combats.
Yeah.
As the combats happen, see where the difficulties are.
Yeah.
If you realize that we keep getting got by people who are behind the front line, then we need more range stuff. So then look into possibly taking your character range, or pay attention if somebody else is starting to go that route.
Right.
For instance, like if I were, no disrespect, all the love, if I were to go off our last combats as to whether or not you're our tank, I would have decided, oh, hell no. Yeah. That gameplay-wise, you drop twice. But in that same vein, and to put this forward to you so you don't have any like self-deprecation, that's a level 3 tank. Level 3 tanks drop all the time. We have healers and people who can bring them back very frequently. We also went up against way larger creatures than me. So, but Royce knew that we could come back from that because of where we were.
Which is interesting. I really thought, I mean, like, don't you like start out fighting like kobolds in the mountain or something? What's going on?
Not things that do 96 damage of necrotic.
Mountain ogre. Necrotic damage.
Lich King.
He said, "Screw you" on a mega scale. That's exactly what he did.
But you gotta understand that. I mean, him putting us up against that also says, wait a minute, maybe we're not meant to kill this. There has to be another way.
Well, and that's, I mean, for a beginning story, one of the options you can do, looking at this from storytelling, look at this from a writer, one of the things you can do with a beginning story is set up the stakes.
Right.
Have them face something so ridiculous. You can even have people, like I've known people that have done stories where their heroes are well advanced, but they have to get knocked back down to one. Something needs to be so dramatic that makes their plight and their drive. Because going on your character, how much has Orthax now got you driven?
Like a lot. A lot.
Would that be the case if somebody just told you have a brother and he's killed your parents, but you've actually played out these moments where he's killed you?
Yeah.
He's killed me. He's screwed with all of you. And especially episode 3, I have to admit, the interaction that all 3 of us had, that one episode, I was like, whoa, I felt like I was getting ganged up on, but in the most theatrical way possible. So then I'm not going, oh shit, like they're just coming down. It's like, no, it's like, oh no, okay, I'm just gonna have to let it out and let out what's going on. And I'm like,
well, you did a beautiful attempt at a subject change in that.
Yes. Wait, what?
And if I weren't playing a character that is so focused on things, like I might have gone, oh yeah, how about that? But it was like no. Laser focus.
It's like,
we'll get back to that, Nelius.
I was like, no.
And
it was.
I had that impulse where I watched the dance and reaction, and I was done. I was done at that moment.
He looked pissed for real. He looked like he wanted.
Your brother killed his mentor.
Yeah, that's true.
Right in front of me, and it was And allowing yourself to go there is just what's amazing.
Out of curiosity, have you gone back and watched the scene that we had with your brother?
I watched everything. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm getting screwed 6 ways to Sunday, folks. Done.
But you put yourself there.
That's true.
But put himself there, making, and this is, I have a lot of respect for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he made a choice of, I'm going to do the thing that's going to be interesting. And he made a choice from character concept. Drax doesn't know any of us from Adam.
Listen.
Somebody just offered him gold to hand in one of these guys that seems like a shady person from the beginning. He was putting mustaches and glasses on him 5 minutes ago.
I am not. Someone gets it. Someone gets it, folks.
I'm not. No. You have to understand. I'm not mad at it at all. I'm like, this is interesting because this gives us something to deal with.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Now, I mean, chaos for just chaos sense is kind of like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? You still got to play into your character, but it was a very interesting moment, and it's an interesting problem for us to now figure out and deal with, and it's beautiful.
And it's also laying into the idea that our whole team, isn't. Digo's been very vocal about it. Our whole team are not seasoned warriors. No.
Yeah.
We're not people who go out. Matter of fact, if Valir had the ability to have fear for death, might not be as quick to go into a lot of this stuff. Right. It literally is his time in the Shadowfell that makes him so willing to stand in front of things.
By the way, what is it about, the Fae that is so disliked? Because I get that's the thing. So, is it just this, or is that a theme that comes up?
The Fae in general. I mean, if you look into the lore that goes with them, and they've definitely leaned into it with D&D. The Fae themselves are super powerful beings that don't care about mortals. You are playthings. Okay. So I'm going to change you. And I it's not as much with D&D, but like the Changeling LARP that what 2.0 put out was a lot of like, you were a changeling, you were kidnapped, and your time spent in the Fae realm changed you into a satyr or into like you were a child, and they put a changeling creature in your place that is living your life. And you may have been there for 40 years while 10 years have passed on and so you have to escape out from under your Fae to go try and find your changeling and find out whether or not what they're doing. It's not the same thing in this, but there is a little bit of that same feeling. A lot of the Fae look at mortals as, what are you doing here? You can go get me tea. And like, you're a servant, you're a thing, and some of them, you're a plaything. Like, I'm curious what would happen if I took a mortal and put them in a maze. Let's see what happens. Mortal maze. And they have the power to do it.
Right.
And so a lot of people have a lot of conflict with that. And the Shadowfell, for specific, is literally sucking the emotion out of the Shadar-kai. So as somebody who's gotten out at a semi-young age, I still have some, level of having grown up away from that. But I still was born there. I still, so I'm playing a character who has been drained. And one of the things that kind of is a thing from reading up on the Shadar-kai, they don't fear death. It comes for everyone.
Yeah.
There's no reason to fear it. So I used that to make a concept with my character of, so he's still very, very curious about everyone else, because it doesn't matter if I die, but you guys all seem to still be trying, and you care about whether you die.
Yeah.
So that's given him a curiosity and a feeling to stand up for the underdog, because he wants them to have the chance, since they apparently think they can get away without dying.
Which also makes things interesting. Like, well, I'm going to go in and use my blade. I don't fear death.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah, it's like...
That's very interesting. What is the craziest moment? I mean, that was a crazy moment, but have you had another? I know we have to wrap it up, but what is the craziest moment that you've had that's kind of...
The one that it's like so different from any other character I've played is the amount of super bad guys that I have just decided to stand up to. Like, because I don't have that Strahd, like getting it, but like even Orthax is standing between you and him, like until you said you're going. And by the way, just in case anybody was wondering, because there was a lot of like, well, they can't hear anybody, there's deafness. My echo cannot be hit by conditions. So my echo cannot be made deaf. Therefore, and I can hear and see anything my echo can. So he can hear you.
No matter what. He saw it no matter what.
So he heard you talking, and that's why the minute you're like, nope, step aside, we just split the way. I'm going to respect you. You want to do this fight? I still put somebody in there that was going to like jump in if I could, but that was so quick. There was nothing.
Nothing
I could have done.
That was baited. That was, and the fact that he deafened and blinded me and Neil,
blink of an eye.
And that was so that we can't react. We can't do nothing. Because we were already emotionally attached.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to wrap it up. But if I could say one thing, what advice would you give to novice players?
Well, math is often the hardest part of everything. Yeah. And it can take up so much time of the game. So having yourself a cheat sheet that just says, like, if I use my axe, this is what I'm rolling, this is what it's by. Just a little cheat sheet of the main things you're going to do. And then when somebody throws you something of that out-of-the-box thinking, then you can go to your sheet, pull up what that number is, and take that moment.
Right.
But have, like, the basics, all the math done. So literally you're taking that D20 and adding to that D20. And then you look at damage. Right. Oh, it's a D8. Take that D8. You add that other number. It happens so much quicker if you don't have to search for that stuff.
Yes.
And so if you have those spells you commonly use, those attacks you commonly use, those items you commonly use, have them written out on a one sheet that just can help you. Because if you can move through the math quicker, you can get back to the story.
Yeah.
You can get back to the role play, which is, for me, the most fun.
Yeah, agreed. Amazing.
This was great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Roy, thank you again for co-hosting, of course.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Please make sure to check out our main show, Dungeons Divided.
Dungeons Divided.
That's every Saturday, right? Every Saturday, 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
And
on
chapter
Twitch.
4 will be dropping on YouTube tomorrow night.
Chapter 5.
5? 5?
5.
5. Wow.
This is chapter 5, guys. I just kind of said 5, guys. Now I'm hungry.
Well, we're at Dungeons Divided. You can find us on Twitch. What is it?
Twitch.tv/
Facebook. Dungeons Divided.
Instagram.
At Dungeons Divided. You'll find us everywhere. We also have a couple other shows besides the Ask the Acolytes.
We have the Character Forge.
The Character Forge. You can check that out.
That's
pretty amazing
Wednesday,
builds.
correct?
Every
Wednesday at 5 p.m., I believe.
And as soon as we get, a tier 3 subscriber, they get to create a character that will be put in a bowl and picked out by Sulliver on the Character Forge to be used in the next Dungeons Divided game.
And they may have to have a conversation with our DM, which is really cool because we're gonna work that character in.
Exactly.
And that's pretty cool. Watch your character come to life. So.
Well, thank you again, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful night, and be back next time.